Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. So I will call the meeting for June 21st, 2023 to order. My name is Barry Clark. I'm the board chair for the Saskatchewan Roughrider Football Club, and I will be the MC tonight. I would like to begin by acknowledging today that we are on the traditional lands referred to as Treaty 4 territory, the original lands of the Cree, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, as well as the homeland of the Métis Nation. We at the Riders are committed to engaging in meaningful acts of reconciliation on this land we are grateful to share. So thank you everybody for making time to come out and join us tonight as we review the past year in Rider Nation. Tonight you're going to hear reports from myself. You're going to hear a report from our President CEO, Craig Reynolds, and if you're looking around the room wondering where he is, unfortunately Craig came down with COVID the other day and won't be able to join us live, but we will get a report from him digitally. So our apologies. We had hoped that he would be able to make it, but out of the abundance of caution, we thought best that he not be here tonight. We'll also have a report from our Chief Financial Officer, Kent Paul, and a report from our VP of Football Operations, Jeremy O'Day. It's always my pleasure to announce that we have a number of past presidents and chairs in the audience. So tonight, Fred, I see you tonight, Fred Wagman. We also have John Lipp is here. Rob Pletch is here. Tom Robinson is here. And our most recent past chair, Randy Beattie. Okay, a few housekeeping items. First, a reminder that voting in meeting will be only by way of hand. Secondly, as with all of our AGMs, there will be no nominations taken from the floor. If you would like a digital copy of the annual report, it's available on Riderville on the Riderville website under the Annual General Meeting tab. Although I think I noticed as you came in, you could pick up a copy if you'd like. And we will also have 15 minutes available at the end of the meeting for questions, so please save your questions to that point. So our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the last annual general meeting. Everybody should have received these in the shareholder package. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the August 23rd, 2022 annual general meeting. Fred Wagman. Last year, Fred, I didn't recognize you, but this year I made sure I did. Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Dave Pettigrew. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, it is now my pleasure to deliver my chair report, if I can find my notes. And I'm very pleased to be able to present this report for the historic year that we had as the Saskatchewan Roughrider Football Club. As you can appreciate, we had planned for 4 years to invite CFL fans and people across the province to the 109th Grey Cup and 2022 Grey Cup Festival. We finally pulled it off. And you'll probably have heard me say, and others have said, that we were committed to making it the best Grey Cup ever. And I think as we reflect back now, we can safely say it was the best Grey Cup ever. We had a number of goals that were key to the event. Number one, we wanted something that would be felt across the whole province. Secondly, we wanted to make it family friendly. Thirdly, we wanted a tech focus. And fourth, we were going to host the event on one footprint. And as you can all appreciate, we were able to do that in this beautiful mosaic site. So under the care and attention of our volunteer host organizing group, I think we hit on every single one of these targets and goals. So for example, events were held throughout the province through the Richardson Pioneer Rider Nation Community Celebration, which was very successful. We had a family fair in the incredibly popular Gainers Heartland, which brought kids of all ages to the Grey Cup and families as well. We hosted a number of innovative events like the esports tournament. We gave fans an opportunity to try AR, VR, and a whole host of digital experiences. And as I said, we did have the entire event on the real campus. As the dust settled, we did learn that the festival produced almost $70 million in economic impact. We also know that the attendees that came to the Grey Cup had the time of their life. They rated it a 4.6 out of 5 in the surveys we did post-Grey Cup. And as you'll learn a little bit later tonight from Kent, it was one of the most profitable Grey Cups ever. So I'd like to thank everyone that was involved in this incredible event, especially our amazing volunteers that were led by Darren Anaka and Nathan Morrison. They poured their heart and soul into making it a success. And one thing we know that makes Saskatchewan so special is our volunteers, and the volunteers and that spirit was showed through the entire week. And it's also important to note that the Grey Cup Festival is going to live on more than just being a memory for us. The club was able to give back almost $750,000 into the community with our legacy programming. And I, for one, am very excited to see what the impact of this funding will be in future years. I'd like to change gears a little bit and talk briefly about the league and provide some perspective. As a league, we were very excited in the past year, or I guess in the spring, we invited Pierre-Carl Pelledeau into the fold as a new owner of the Montreal Alouettes franchise. And if you have been watching and noticed the first game, they had a great opening weekend. This new ownership is committed to the CFL, and they will ensure that the Alouettes are successful on a long-term basis. In addition to that, you'll recall several years ago we had new ownership in BC, Amar Doman, and the fantastic work that he's already done is clearly shining through. So we now believe at the CFL level we have an ownership group that is incredibly strong, and the league is in a great position to succeed as we go forward. So coming back to Riderville, we're all excited to hear what Craig Reynolds and his team are planning specifically for the fans this season. We know Rider Nation and fan engagement is really at the forefront of everything that we do. I want to thank Craig and the group for all the hard work to make sure every fan knows just how much they are valued and appreciated, and you will see some of that this year for sure. I was also extremely encouraged to see the hard work of our general manager, Jeremy O'Day, and our coach, Craig Dickinson, that they put in the off-season to make the team better. From free agency to the draft to training camp, and now with 2 games complete, we are witness to a very talented group of players and coaches. I believe there's great optimism as to what this team can accomplish this year, and I look forward to them on the field and certainly beating Calgary on Saturday. So before I close, I would like to allow me a few minutes of reflection as I say goodbye to my position as chair of the board and also my time on the board of directors. First, I'd like to provide a huge thank you to the outstanding staff led by Craig, Kent, and Anthony. Not only did the staff complete their day-to-day regular tasks during the season, but they also hosted the best Grey Cup Festival ever. And we can't underestimate just how big a task that was for the staff. It has been truly an honor to work closely with so many of you over the past 9 years. And while Craig isn't here, he's probably listening, but I want to shout out to our CEO, Craig Reynolds. Craig's an exceptional leader who's extremely passionate about Rider Nation. I thoroughly enjoyed working with him over the past 2 years. I believe we're very fortunate to have Craig leading this organization, and I have no doubt in my mind that we have the best CEO in the CFL. I would like to also thank the other 10 board members for their outstanding service to the club, and also for allowing me the privilege to be the chair for the past 2 years. I will be forever grateful for the opportunity to lead this group. This is a group of outstanding volunteers who always have the club's best interest at heart in any decisions that are made. Another board member who's stepping aside this year is Eric Dillon. Unfortunately, Eric is not here tonight, but I want to thank Eric for being a great contributor. Eric had the ability to always ask the tough questions, and his business acumen will be sorely missed. And finally, a huge thank you to the fans. You are what Rider Nation is all about. I'm so grateful to have been able to represent you, the fans, for the past 9 years. So finally, as I reflect on the past 2 years as chair, I am proud of many things. These include getting back on the field after the canceled season in 2020, hosting the best Grey Cup ever, Our improved financial results, which also included moving some money back into our stabilization fund, and the work that the club is doing on the Truth and Reconciliation actions. I'm also really proud of the tireless work that the football operations staff, including Jeremy and Craig, have done to get us back on track on the field and towards our goal of sustained success. So in closing, it's been my honor and privilege to serve the board of directors as the chair of the Saskatchewan Roughrider Football Club. I know as we go forward, the club is in very good hands, both on the field and off the field. And I am very optimistic about what 2023 is going to bring us and beyond. Onwards and upwards, Rider Nation. Okay, so here's our first test of technology. Craig Reynolds will give his report remotely. So please pay attention to the screen. There he is.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm not able to join you at the AGM. I joined the club in 2009, and this is the first AGM in 14 years that I unfortunately am not going to be able to attend in person. I tested positive for COVID on the weekend, and while I had hoped to be feeling well enough and testing negative to be able to join you today, out of an abundance of caution, I think it's the right decision to deliver my remarks via video. I do, though, admittedly have a face for radio, so I'll also try to keep my remarks briefer than normal, and certainly do appreciate your understanding around me not being there in person tonight. I, for one, am quite excited to officially be turning the page on 2022, which was a challenging year on the field, but one you'll hear was a successful one off the field. I might as well start with a disappointment as we look back on 2022 on the football field. We know I let our fan base down last year with a 6-12 record and missing the playoffs. But I've been so impressed with how Jeremy and Craig approached and attacked the offseason. They spent significant and important time reflecting on the type of team we wanted to be and approached the offseason with the goal of building a team that Rider Nation will be proud of. It's certainly early on in the season, but I can say that the early returns are extremely positive, and this is due to the incredible hard and smart work put in by Jeremy and Craig and their entire teams. I'm very confident in the ability of Craig, Jeremy, and their staffs to keep things rolling in a very positive way in 2023. After reflecting a bit on what didn't go as planned last year, I certainly am excited to talk about the 109th Grey Cup and 2022 Grey Cup Festival, which did go as planned. After 4 years of planning, we were able to host a very successful Grey Cup and Grey Cup Festival. I'm most proud of how we identified our strategy of making it innovative, youth-focused, and involving the entire province. Whether it's a drone show, the esports tournament, the family-friendly Gainers Heartland, or just having it all in one footprint, we did countless things that have never been done before at Grey Cups. And none of this would have been possible without our amazing Grey Cup volunteers. You couldn't miss the thousands of volunteers during Grey Cup week. You literally couldn't miss them because of their extremely bright neon jackets. They made the event what it was. And I want to thank all the volunteers, and especially the hundreds of planning volunteers who devoted 4 years of their lives to this event and poured their heart and soul into making it such a success. To our volunteer host organizing committee chairs, Darren Anaka and Nathan Morrison, we can't thank you and your dedicated planning volunteers enough. I also want to thank the members of my team for all their work they put in to make the festival such a success. On top of their very busy day jobs, they all took on extra work throughout the entire planning process, and of course the event week itself. I want to thank Kent Paul, who chaired our operations committee. I want to thank my entire team for all their hard work. Kent will provide more details in a bit, but hosting Grey Cup in a full 18-game season allowed us to have one of the most successful seasons we've ever had financially. We had tremendous fan support despite a tougher season on the field, and with the single highest level of corporate support we've ever had as a club during the last fiscal year. I want to thank our corporate partners for being such an important part of what we do, for supporting our community programs, making our game day the best in the country, and helping us to engage with Rider Nation throughout the year. And none of the financials are possible without the incredible support of our fan base. Thank you to our season ticket holders. Thank you to everyone who came to the stadium, bought a piece of Rider merch, and supported our club. You are the reason we were able to have a successful year financially last year. One of the other things that was extremely successful and much overdue was a return in a very big way to doing the things we do in the community that make the Riders the Riders. One of the biggest challenges throughout the pandemic was that it frankly didn't allow us to really have any meaningful community presence for effectively 2 years. We lost the 2020 season, and then the shortened 2021 season, we had our interactions for our players and coaches with the community extremely restricted. So we knew we needed to get back in a very big way in 2022. And in my time with the club, I don't remember a year where we did more in the community than we did last year. A lot of these programs were delivered by our Saskatchewan Roughrider Foundation under the direction of our Executive Director, Cindy Fuchs, and her team, but all were focused on our pillars of amateur football, health, and education. Our Win with Wellness presentations, as an example, reached just under 16,000 students throughout the province, where our player ambassadors spoke to kids about the importance of mental health and gave you tools around managing their mental health. Our entire organization is extremely proud of the work the club is doing in the areas of truth and reconciliation under the guidance of our volunteer Indigenous task force. Much more work is necessary, but our commitment to advancing specific calls to action around Indigenous language and involvement in sport is extremely important to us. We often say that what we do in the community is as important as anything we do as an organization, and I really feel that 2022 and the 2023 off-season, we are extremely committed to giving back to the community in so many ways. As we shift our focus to 2023, with the pandemic and the Grey Cup behind us, it allows us to focus on one thing, and that's our fans. We spent the entire offseason listening to feedback from our fans, talking to our fans, and trying to do everything we can to respond to some of the challenges being faced and elevating the fan experience at every opportunity we can. We are conscious of economic challenges right now and working hard to make game day a good value for families, including our $99 family package, $5 concession menu items, and the elevation of our pre-game and in-game experiences with more live music, games, and even the ability to join us on field after many of the games. We've rescaled the stadium, which resulted in us lowering the prices on 9,000 seats at the stadium. That's at their previous price reduction on an additional 3,000 seats in the stadium. We've created more content and more access to our players through stories written by Rob Vanstone, a podcast Air It Out with Daniela Ponticelli, and player autograph sessions in Coors Light Party in the Park on top of the hundreds of community appearances I referenced earlier. Our success last season and through the Grey Cup was because of our fans' commitment and dedication, and we're going to keep showing you how much we appreciate it. I want to close by thanking a number of people. I mentioned it before, but I want to specifically thank our entire team at the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I get to come to work with so many talented sports professionals who wake up every day thinking about how they can best serve Rider Nation. They embrace us continually trying to elevate and get better, and they work countless evenings, weekends, and holidays under normal circumstances, and even more so during these past few years with the challenges faced with the pandemic and then the opportunity to deliver the 2022 Grey Cup. Thank you to my entire team for everything you do. I also want to thank our incredibly dedicated board of directors. These 11 individual volunteers volunteer their time and their expertise to support management, to challenge us, and to provide incredible oversight and governance to our club. We have world-class leaders on our board of directors and incredibly strong governance, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders are a strong organization as a result of this. I want to thank outgoing board member Eric Dillon for his time on the board. Eric always brought incredible insight and a focus on leadership and culture that was always appreciated by myself and our management team. I want to close by thanking our outgoing chair, Barry Clark, for not only his 9 years on the board, but for his outstanding leadership as chair these last 2 years. All this on top of being co-chair of the 2022 Grey Cup Festival. We have tremendous volunteers associated with our club, but Barry's volunteerism with the club has spanned over 30 years. From Plaza of Honor dinner committees to previous Grey Cup committees to his time on our board, and most recently chairing the board, Barry's love of the Saskatchewan Roughriders has shone through in absolutely everything he has touched. His dedication to the club is second to none. Barry's extremely upbeat and positive, which frankly came in hand many times last year. He's someone you know will always put the best interests of the club and our fans first, and he will be greatly missed. Thank you all for being here tonight, and again, let me apologize for not being with you in person. Following last year, we committed to ensuring that we built a football team that all of Rider Nation will be proud of, and we worked continuously since to try to accomplish that. We can't thank you enough for your support. Thank you once again, and go Riders.
Thank you to Craig, and thanks all the tech staff that made that actually work. I was a little worried that I might be reading that report. And this is the first time I haven't had to move the mic after Craig's report. All right, next item is agenda item number 6. It's the financial report, and I'd like to invite our Chief Financial Officer, Kent Paul, up.
Barry, I'll just move the mic up if you don't mind. That was on behalf of Craig. Yeah. I got to figure out next year. I think Craig's watching. I was just going to tell him. I think next year I'm going to plan a video presentation, and if he doesn't mind, I'll just maybe stay at home next year. But no, again, Craig, hope you're doing well. Hope to see you in the office in the coming days. Good evening, Board of Directors, past presidents, fellow Rider staff, and members of Rider Nation. It is my pleasure to present the 2022-23 financial report for the Saskatchewan Roughrider Football Club. Last year I stood here and noted the 2021-22 year was the start of the club's financial recovery. That was on the heels of announcing a multi-million-dollar loss and managing through the COVID pandemic, which we will all recall created lots of financial uncertainty for the club. Here we are 2 years later, and I'm pleased to announce strong financial results for the club. The opportunity to play a full season, along with strong support from our fans, partners, and stakeholders, have allowed us to recover from the financial challenges we faced not too long ago. In addition, the opportunity to host the 2022 Grey Cup was a resounding success, was also part of this equation. In 2022-23, the club had excess revenues over expenses from operating activities of $3.9 million compared to the same amount in the prior year. When you factor in the results of the 2022 Grey Cup, the club experienced excess revenues over expenses of $7.2 million. I think that may be the first time that I've received an applause at the AGM. Thank you. The club's revenues resulted in a total of $40 million, an increase of $6 million from the prior year. Operating expenses increased to $36 million, also an increase of $6 million from the prior year. The opportunity to play an 18-game schedule was the primary driver of the revenue and expense growth compared to the prior year, which only included 14 games. When we look at our revenues, the club recognized total operating revenues of $40 million. The club saw the return of its normal revenue streams from a full season in the areas of gate receipts, sponsorship, and concessions. Even though the club's merchandise sales were down from the previous year, this does not include the Grey Cup merchandise sales, which exceeded $1 million. Combined, merchandise sales exceeded the prior year results. The prior year included $2.7 million in revenues from government funding and hosting a home playoff game, which were not part of the year-end results. Strong support from our partners and stakeholders, along with increased interest in fundraising income, helped support the club's increased revenues. Overall, the club had a strong recovery of its operating revenue streams associated with a full season, which supported its overall financial success. With the club having the opportunity to play a full season, the majority of the expense categories increased from the prior year and returned to what we would call normal levels. Overall, the club concluded the year with total operating expenses of $36 million. The largest increase in expenses was in the sponsorship area, which included increased costs with the centralization of sponsorship assets with the league. The only expenses that decreased from the prior year were merchandise expense, along with amortization of property and equipment. Now to look at the club's financial results in a bit different way, EBITDA. EBITDA is a key financial measure the club considers when assessing the club's profitability and financial performance. In general, EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. To calculate EBITDA for the club, we take the net income amount of $7.2 million and add back the interest paid on debt and amortization expense. For the year ending March 31st, 2023, the club had an EBITDA of $9.8 million, which is one of the strongest EBITDAs in the history of the club. '22 Grey Cup. It took 4 years to get there. However, it was a great experience to finally host the 2022 Grey Cup Festival and 109th Grey Cup game. The Grey Cup resulted in strong financial results not only for the club, however, the CFL as well. Overall, the Grey Cup generated $23.9 million in revenues, $16.4 million in expenses, for a net income of $7.5 million, which was split with the CFL 60-40, where the league received 60% and the club 40%. The largest revenue streams of the Grey Cup were gate receipts to the 109th Grey Cup game, followed by strong government support from the federal and provincial governments and the City of Regina. Sponsorship revenues were one of the strongest for any Grey Cup held, and the club sold over $1.3 million in Grey Cup merchandise. The largest expense for the Grey Cup was the CFL costs, which included the costs of the competing teams to travel to Regina, halftime show, entertainment and production, and other league-related costs. Festival events was the second largest expense, which covered all the costs for delivering the amazing Grey Cup Festival. What a festival it was, with many new activations, especially those geared to youth and technology. A digital zone, esports tournament, drone show, youth football activations, and many more events. Thank you to our amazing volunteers, government partners, corporate partners, and CFL fans from across the country for making what we truly believe was the best Grey Cup Festival ever. At the end of March, the club had approximately $84 million in total assets, with the majority of these being held in capital assets valued at $41 million, which primarily relate to the club's investment in Mosaic Stadium. The club had $34 million in current assets, an increase of $4 million from the prior year. The club's cash balance grew to $29 million, which included $9 million located in its stabilization fund, an increase of $2 million from the prior year. In addition, the cash balance included $8 million related to the 109th Grey Cup. Offsetting the club's assets, the club had $34 million in liabilities, a decrease of $6 million from the prior year. The club's largest liability continues to be deferred revenue at $22 million. Deferred revenues are monies the club has already received from season ticket holders and partners, which have been carried forward to the 2023 season and beyond. The club had a large increase in its accounts payable, which relates to the outstanding amounts owing to the CFL for their portion of the Grey Cup proceeds. The opportunity to host the 109th Grey Cup and the ability to play a full season were game changers for the club's financial results. The club has survived the impact of the pandemic, the cancellation of the 2020 season, and a shortened 2021 season. The club has been able to reinvest into its stabilization fund, bringing the balance to be higher than it was pre-pandemic. Recognizing the strong financial results of the past year, the club is very cognizant of the economic challenges facing Rider Nation going forward. Record inflation, increasing interest rates, and overall increases in all consumer goods is impacting everyone's bank accounts and making it harder and harder for Rider Nation to attend games. Saying that, the club is committed to working through these items, introducing $99 family packages, $5 menu items, reduced parking fees, and lowering the price of 9,000 seats in the stadium to help make game days more affordable. We do this knowing that one thing we have learned over the last couple of years is that we can navigate challenges presented to us. Rider Nation, thank you for your support through the 2022 season and the 109th Grey Cup. We are truly grateful to you. As we look forward, here's to the goal of hoisting the 110th Grey Cup in Hamilton. Thank you, and go Riders.
We'll move this down one more time. Thank you, Kent. Outstanding results, and it's almost surreal to think where we are now compared to where we were 2 years ago at this meeting. So, outstanding job. So it's now my pleasure to invite our General Manager and Vice President of Football Operations, Jeremy O'Day, to the stage, and he'll speak about the current season.
Well, first off, thank you very much for having me here tonight. I want to start off by thanking the past presidents, the past board members that are here tonight showing their support. It means a lot to see you here at the event, so thank you for coming. Wanted to take the time to thank Barry Clark for his leadership. Spending the last number of years with Barry's been an honor. It seems like he's more part of the family than he is the head of the board, but his leadership through some challenging years was outstanding, and we just wanted to thank you for that, Bear. Also wanted to thank Eric Dillon for his support and his work on the board of directors. As we said before, Eric's leaving the board. I wanted to thank him. Always enjoyed the conversations that I had with Eric. Also wanted to thank the current board members that are here to show their support of our organization, taking their time out to come here. But also, wanted to thank the current board for the effort that they put in to serve in the board and the work that they do, but also just letting everyone understand that they're good at their job. They ask the tough questions, they challenge us, they lay out expectations. Unfortunately, we didn't have the season that we were hoping to have last year, and I can tell you that the accountability coming from the board is very strong, and certainly not something that I want to face very often, but was very good from them from a leadership perspective to challenge us, to ask us the right questions, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make Rider Nation proud, and in my business to win football games. So wanted to thank them personally for that. I can't tell you how excited I am to get this first part of this discussion over with, which is talking about the 2022 season. It seems like it's been the longest off season in my time in Saskatchewan. When you have a season like that, the off seasons can be quite drawn out and long, and there's a lot of impatience, and I face it everywhere we go, and but that's what makes Rider Nation so great. It's a province where football matters and expectations are high, and I said this before, when I first came to Saskatchewan, I was overly surprised by the attitude of the fans at the time. Was they just wanted us to compete, and it's no longer good enough to just compete in Saskatchewan. So I'm proud that we're in that situation. I know the expectations, and I know what we're expected to do as a football team. So we take it very seriously. So I'm overly excited to talk about the 2022 season, just so we can put it in the rearview mirror. But obviously last year we didn't hit our expectations. We started out the season at 4-0, and after that we never really got back on track. I think there's a number of reasons. I don't want to be the guy that stands up and gives excuses, but I felt we certainly got our fair share of challenges throughout last season. Because of that, because of that year, it does lead to good things in the future. It allows us to sit back, refocus on what type of football team do we want, and where we live into the standards that we're setting up in the locker room. Do we have the culture that we want in the locker room? And why did that happen? Sometimes you can over-evaluate it, but I think that was very necessary. Spent a ton of time of evaluating last season and what went wrong, right? So a number of things that were challenging last year that we faced. We faced COVID through our locker room. A couple weeks later, we had another virus that went through our locker room that kind of decimated our team for a couple games there. And then the biggest reality is we didn't play good enough. And me personally, Coach Dickinson, Craig Reynolds, it's a time for us to look at the team and reflect. And when we look back at the season as whole, we look back at, and our main goal is to make Rider Nation proud, to make them feel that we're always going to have a chance to win games and compete at the very end. And we felt like there needed to be change coming out of that season. And so obviously with this off season, there was a lot of change that happened. And I'll go into that more and talk about the changes we made and why we made those in a minute. But I do want to talk about a few of the individuals on our team that had outstanding years last year. Last year we had two linebackers in Darnell Sankey and Larry Dean that actually became the second group of linebackers in CFL history to have over 100 tackles in a year. It's quite an accomplishment when you think about all the years of football in the CFL. Those guys were making a lot of tackles. Unfortunately, maybe we had them on the field a little bit too long, but quite an accomplishment for those guys. Early in the season, I don't like to toot my horn, but we traded for Mario Alford, who actually became the Special Teams Player of the Year, and just a great player for us. We're excited to see him in a full season. I think he's right up there with the most return yards this year so far, and just an electric player, but someone that really fits in our culture in Saskatchewan. And Mario became, I think, the first Roughrider in the history to return a punt, a kickoff, and a missed field goal in a season. So great accomplishment from Mario Alford. Also, I felt like we established a really good group of running backs, a really kind of a dynamic duo with Jamal Morrow and Frankie Hickson. Unfortunately, Frankie was a little dinged up in last week's game and hurt his shoulder early in the game, but hopefully we're going to get him back real soon. But really excited to see those two have a full season working together, so we were excited about that. At the conclusion of the year, we obviously, when we look back at our record, it's just not something that we take very lightly. So just so you understand, we wear it on our sleeve, and it's difficult when that happens, especially from someone that lives and makes Saskatchewan its home. It's difficult to see people wearing the green S, knowing that we didn't have the best season. So we took it very seriously, obviously, lots of discussions after the season, and decided that we needed to make some change in our organization, and obviously you look at the things you do good and the things that you didn't do very well, and so that led for us to make a lot of change on the offensive side of the ball. Again, I always say that just because we made change doesn't mean that those players weren't good players, or those coaches weren't good players. We just didn't have the right mix, and that's what a lot about football, is having the right mix of players. I've done a lot of time looking at past rosters in Saskatchewan. I've been here for a very long time, and evaluating rosters, and sometimes I look at rosters from the past and I said, geez, I don't know if that roster's really that good, but we won the Grey Cup that year, and the honest to God is what it comes down, is having the right people and the right players, and it's the locker room that makes all the difference. So we made some significant changes, as everyone's aware. To start off in free agency, one of our focuses was really to sign back a lot of the guys from our defense. We feel like we have a good group of defensive players, and some of those guys are still coming into their own and going to hopefully become even better players than we were. So we focused on signing some defensive guys back. Anthony Lanier, who's a very good defensive lineman, provides a lot of flexibility on our defensive line. Pete Robertson, Larry Dean, we actually got him back, and we moved Larry back to his more natural position, which is middle linebacker. Larry's a true leader. He's the kind of guy that you want running your defense. He holds the guys accountable all the time, and he leads by example. So I think Larry, after the loss the other day against Winnipeg, went right up into the weight room after the game and started lifting weights. So he's the type of guy that we want in the building. We re-signed Roland Milligan, who plays halfback for us. Halfback is one of the most difficult positions on the football field. You're usually playing against their best receiver, and that receiver is usually in motion, and it's very difficult to play. And he's one of the best in the league, and just a really great football player. So we got him back, and Jamal Morrow that I mentioned earlier, got him back, who's really just a great all-purpose back for us. We knew going into free agency we were going to be very active. If some of you thought that the month of November through, I guess, the middle of February were long months, I agree, they were very long months. And a lot of impatiency, but the reality is when you go through changes like that, it takes time before you can set your roster the way you want it. You can't sign the players until you get into free agency. And I know that leads to a little bit of uncertainty and unsettlement, and a lot of people asking if I was just home watching TV, but I promise you we were working our butts off through that whole period of preparing for free agency and preparing to get in that free agency window. We knew we were going to be very active, particularly on offense. So when we got into that window, obviously we created a lot of momentum when we signed our new quarterback, Trevor Harris, who's just been just awesome through the process. I think, I shared with, the board and Craig Reynolds that it is a breath of fresh air when you have players that want to play in Saskatchewan. They want to be here, and certainly once we got into the window to talk to Trevor, the feeling was mutual, and it was great to get him on board early because it kind of created some momentum for us in free agency. And from there, it led into all the free agents that we signed. Obviously, we replaced our whole receiver core. I know that everyone was concerned. We heard a lot of talk about how our receiver is going to be, but we added 2 receivers that have been all-stars in our league. We added another young one that I think now is 5th in our league in receiving, that is an up-and-comer in Sean Bain. Jacob Weineke, Jake is just a really good football player, and we expect great things from him. And everyone got a chance to see Tevin Jones for the first time since last year, and he had a great first game. And Sam Emelis, someone that hasn't been talked about except for within kind of our personnel department, where we always felt that Sam's going to be a very good player. Obviously, he's a Canadian that we drafted 2 years ago, but finally getting that opportunity to play, and I think he's going to be just a really fantastic player. And he's just starting out introducing himself to Rider Nation, so he's a heck of a football player, and we're excited about him. So. Up front, I know that the whole offseason, it felt like it was 5 off seasons in one, talking about our offensive line. And I think that, the message was we spent endless hours watching our line play and determining, who was good enough to stay and who do we want back and where do we make changes. And obviously we did make changes. If you look at our offensive line, going into the start of the season, I think we would have replaced 80%, would have been, 4 out of 5 O-linemen would have been different, which is a challenge when you're going into a season with guys that haven't played with each other. But they had a very strong camp. They worked very well together. Really excited about our offensive line coach and our new, our new tackles. We're going to continue to work on the right fit, and it's not, people can sometimes get confused by, if there's a new guy in the lineup that you weren't happy with the guy before him. But the reality is, coming out of camp, we're gonna tinker with the O-line until we get the right group of guys. We feel like we've got a very good start with those guys up front, and we're happy with their work ethic and how they're going to protect Trevor. I think that most of you can see that it also, it's not just the O-line, it's the running backs, it's the receivers, but also the quarterback makes a big difference. I think you can see that, Trevor just does a great job with his pocket presence and stepping up and knowing where the pass rush is coming through and recognizing the blitz. He does a really good job at that. So we're excited about that group. We're going to have some guys that you might not have seen yet that will be playing for us that had really good training camps that we're excited about as well. So we feel like we're in a good spot with the guys up front for sure. Last year, or going into April, we were also excited that we were able to extend Keenan Schaefer-Baker. I think that was a big deal for us to extend him through 2025. He had an awesome year last year and was dealing with a hip injury that he had to get fixed. He actually played the whole season with it. A lot of people don't know, but he played with it and got it fixed, and he's here rehabbing and working his butt off, and we're just super excited to add him into the crew that we already have there. So just want to give Trevor as many weapons as possible, and we're fortunate to have some really good Canadian ones and some American guys that are going to surprise some people in the league. So we're excited about that. Obviously, we also made some changes to our coaching staff, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. It's been, we're off to a good start. We're excited about it. Again, there's a lot of football ahead of us. We need to win football games, and that's what's important for us, is to go out and win football games. But we also know that it's a process. There's going to be ups and downs. There'll be challenges that we go through. But so far, I'm really enjoying our offensive coaching staff. Coach Jeffrey, that's our offensive coordinator, is very creative. He likes to create mismatches. He likes to take advantage of the situations in the game, and it's just something that's fresh. And I think all through training camp, it was fun to see just a different perspective on offense, and to see different play calls, different formations, different sets. So we're excited about Coach Jeffrey. I already talked about Coach Vitale, our offensive line coach. The offensive line, the players love playing for him. It means a lot when you have coaches that players want to play for, because it adds something. They play hard for the coach, and that makes a difference. So we're excited to add him. We had added Drew Tate, who was a former quarterback in the CFL, played a long time in our league. He brings a great perspective of concepts and different ways that we can take advantage of the defense. And of course, adding Andre Bolduc from Montreal, just been really great in the room. Just has tremendous leadership. Another guy that's from the East that really wanted to be a part of Rider Nation, and we're happy to have him, and he's done a great job. And of course, Naaman Roosevelt, everyone, I've never seen a coach get so much attention than Naaman does. He deserves every bit of it. He's a fantastic player for us, but he's growing into his own as a coach. Sometimes he forgets. He wears his cleats out, and we got to remind him you can't go out and run routes, and we got to talk to him a little bit. But he brings energy and excitement, and he really has a great rapport with our receivers. So happy with our whole coaching staff, and excited about the direction that we're going. Defensively, our defensive coaching staff, Coach Shivers is leading our defensive unit. Again, he's just has a tremendous rapport with our players, and there's a familiarity with bringing the same group of defensive guys back, and we're expecting big things out of them up front. The only change we made on defense for our coaches was adding Del Cowsett, that has been doing a great job with our defensive line, and we're excited about that unit up front as well. So super excited. Coach, of course, really excited about our head coach. Coach Dickinson has worked tirelessly on evaluating the culture of our locker room, and what can we do to improve culture and accountability, and he holds players to a high level of accountability, and he's just doing a great job. We're really working his butt off of trying to build that culture and helping us get a team that everyone can be proud of. So we were also super excited about our draft this year, 2023's CFL draft. We have 4 players that are currently on our active roster from the draft, so that's a pretty successful draft. One of our global players as well is our punter. That's doing a nice job for us as well. So the draft went very well. We're excited about that. Kind of in closing, I just wanted to say that just really appreciate the work that Craig Reynolds and Coach Dickinson have done during the off season. The 3 of us are very much in line with what we need to do and how we need to improve from last year's season, and we spent a lot of time working on solutions, how we can build a better culture, do we have the right players, do we have the right coaching staff. So I just wanted to let everyone rest assured that we're working our butts off. We are super excited. I asked Coach Dickinson before I came up to this meeting, just if you wanted, if you had anything to say, and he just wanted me to tell you that he really loves our team, and the players that we have are working their butts off. They're spending a lot of time in the weight room, a lot of time in the film room. They're very dedicated. They don't talk about 2022. I know it's always natural to compare the team from last year, but they're fully aware it's 2023, and we're just excited about making this push and winning some football games and giving ourselves an opportunity to be there in the end. So thanks for everyone in the room for your support. I would be remiss if I didn't thank all the fans for their support. That first home game was awesome. I thought the energy was outstanding, and I look forward to everyone showing up at the next home game. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Excellent report, and thank you for the kind words. I think last year was definitely a year of great learnings for the club, and I can personally attest to the hard work that Jeremy and Coach Dickey and the rest of the crew have put in. And I've certainly heard feedback from players that things are different this year, and we're going to see that on the field. So thank you again, Jeremy. Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 8, which is the report of the nominating committee, and I'm going to call Randy Beatty up to the stage, please. Randy is our chair. Randy is the chair of our nominating committee. Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Barry. Now for the exciting stuff. So good evening, everybody. And as chair of the nominating committee, it's my pleasure to present the 2023 director nominees to shareholders for election. The nominating committee puts forward the following names for one-year terms: Edmund Bellegarde and Susan Plett, and for re-election for 3-year terms, Rhonda Ekstrom and Robert Vanderhoof. I'm pleased to make the motion to put forward the nominees for election to the Board of Directors be accepted as just previously read. Barry Clark has agreed to second the motion, and will now vote. Sorry, John? We'll vote. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried, and congratulations to the re-election and the new board members to the Saskatchewan Roughrider Board. Thanks.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate that. Thank you, Randy, and congratulations to both Susan and Edmund. I know you're going to be great board members, and we're excited to have you on the team. Okay, we have one final business item, and that's to appoint our auditors for the current year. So this is appointing the auditors for the club for 2023-2024. Deloitte LLP has been the appointed auditors for the club since 1971. So I would look for a motion to appoint Deloitte LLP Chartered Accountants of Regina, Saskatchewan as the auditors for the club for 2023-24 at remuneration to be fixed by the board. Can I have a Terry? Second. Arnie, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, and it's my great pleasure now to introduce the 2023-24 directors for the Saskatchewan Roughrider Football Club. And I believe they're going to be up on the screen, but I'll ask you to stand. So Rhonda Ekstrom, Regan Exner, I don't think Regan is here, Doug Hodson, Mackenzie Kilshaw, Dave Pettigrew, Blair Ross, Terry Strunk, Rob Vanderhoof, Greg Ewell, Edmund Bellegarde, and Susan Flett. So if you could stand up and a round of applause for the new board. Okay, and this brings us to the closing part of the meeting, and this is where we'll open up the floor for questions. So I'm going to invite Jeremy back up here, and Kent, and also Anthony. So if you have a question, we ask that you raise your hand, and a staff member will come to you with the microphone. And we're going to take 15 minutes for questions, so we'll take the questions as they come up.
Third chair on the side? Yeah, 2 and 2. Perfect.
If you can just keep your hand up, we'll get a staff member there with a microphone. I'm guessing you're going to get more this year than last year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Thomas, okay, right here. Go ahead, thanks.
Probably a real easy one. If we could just know the background of the two newest board members, Mr. Edmund Bellegarde and Susan Plett. What are their backgrounds? What are they bringing as an acumen?
Sorry, I don't have their resumes here, but Edmund, past tribal chief of the Fort Qu'Appelle Tribal Council and now involved in e-business, considerable expertise in board governance, so we're very excited to have him on board. Susan Plett is the CEO and president of, Sask Gaming. Am I correct? Where's Susan? And also brings a great deal of board governance experience, and also very excited to have her on board as well. Sorry, I don't have a bit more details in front of me. Yeah. Okay, next question.
Yes, who's in charge of security for the football games and the Grey Cup? Exiting the Mosaic Stadium after the Grey Cup, I suffered a rotator cuff injury because of some miscommunication between security people, and a lot of us on the west-hand side got into a situation on the north end of the stadium because the south side was blocked unknown to us, and as a result I was jostled by somebody and suffered a rotator cuff injury, which I'm just only getting over with now, I hope.
Yeah, very sorry to hear that, sir. Ken, do you want to speak on behalf of football or business line?
Yeah, definitely unfortunate to hear your story. Obviously, we'd love to maybe talk a bit further to get some more details, and we can follow up on that further. But again, our security, every game day we try and keep the fans, everyone in the stadium as safe as possible. We have approximately the population of the city of Moose Jaw on any given game day. So there's a lot that goes into trying to keep that stadium and everyone around it as safe as we can. But definitely, let me follow up with you, directly, and we can chat further on your experience, because it's definitely not what we want our fans to experience.
Hello. My question is this. I'd like to know what criteria the club has established to decide who gets their number retired. And I ask this because there are 4 numbers being used right now that should have been retired a long time ago.
My comment is it's a great question. To be honest, I don't know if any of us at the table here have the exact answer, but it's definitely something we can follow up on and get back to you on. In terms of the retired numbers, I know some of them on the wall are those who passed in a unfortunate plane crash back many years ago, and then others obviously are a bit more of the others in terms of just general players. So perhaps again we can just follow up with you. We can chat with Craig a bit further and get back to you on an individual response.
Yeah, I'd like to know that, if somebody could put me on to who I should talk to.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. We'll grab your name and connect with you directly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I can just add, I know that the club has established some very strict criteria for that, and Craig will be able to take you through the details of that. But
Hi, this question is about the online betting. A quick perusal of the interweb, which granted isn't in-depth research, but suggests that Canadians spend on average $1.2 billion a year on online betting. I also know that the CFL has partnered with Genius Sports Marketing.
Correct.
And they work with sports franchise on betting. So my question is, of that $1.2 billion, how much might trickle down to the riders in particular and the league in general?
well, I don't have exact numbers, but certainly there's a significant opportunity there, and our partnership with Genius is hopefully going to take us to that. This is obviously in its infancy as the government has changed the rules, but yeah, we view it as a huge opportunity, and hopefully we can share some numbers before too long.
My question is about for season ticket holders. If we're unable to use our seats, has there been anything looked at for being able to donate seats to potentially like big brothers, big sisters, or something like that? Might help with generating interest among younger fans and giving people an opportunity to come see this great product and get hooked.
That's a great idea. I would say that if you have any interest whatsoever in donating your seats and want them to go to a worthwhile cause, the best thing would be to call the box office, the ticket office, and someone there will take that information. We've got our Saskatchewan Roughrider Foundation that we work with very closely. We have others that call the ticket office on a regular basis. We have many, many lists of people who would love to attend the game and for one reason or another can't. So thank you for that offer, and by all means, please call the ticket office. They'd be more than happy to get your call. Thank you.
Good evening. I was just wondering, we've watched the club the last few years suffer a number of injuries, and I've heard coaches respond to questions about it as the injury bug or snake bitten. This is maybe more of a comment than a question, but I was just wondering if anyone's looked into hiring an exterminator to maybe get rid of whatever seems to be causing the problem.
I think that's a question. First of all, in your earlier question about the retired numbers, I've been telling them to retire 54 for I can't. So I'm on board with you. Let's get that thing retired. Now the injury's a good one. Obviously, I stare at the injury report on a daily basis. We get updates from our training staff, our medical staff on a regular basis, and it is quite frustrating when you have the amount of injuries that you do. And over the last 2 or 3 years, we certainly have had our share of them. So just so you know, we do a lot of work on looking at the injuries. Are they common injuries? Are they based off a certain thing? Do you need to change something that you do? And our injury list right now is all over the place. I don't know how you can prevent. One of our players actually had a lacerated kidney in a game earlier in the season from just catching an elbow. We've had broken ribs, we've had shoulders, we've had ankles, we've had all sorts of things. So we constantly are trying to evaluate, is there ways that we can be better of trying to keep our players healthy? I can assure you that we take that into consideration when amount of reps that we're doing in practice. They've reduced the amount of padded practices that you can have a CFL initiative. This year we added guardian caps to the players so that we can reduce the amount of concussions that they may happen in practice. So we're continuing to work on it. Sometimes, injuries happen in football. Obviously, you want to try to prevent them if you can, but ultimately it's a physical game, and there's a little bit of luck to it. So hopefully we're getting our share early in the season, and we start to get healthy down the stretch. And we'll call the exterminator as well.
Hello, I come from Manitoba in Ontario, and I've been a season ticket holder since '72. I hope you saw on the Jumbotron the last game about Audrey Osokonik, and she was a volunteer at Taylor Field for 27 years, and when we moved her to Muchmore Lodge or Sunset Extendicare, she took the paratransit or a taxi, or friends drove her to the casino so that she could watch the game. She was a fan, a real fan, because I'm her friend, I know this. And of course, every year I shop the Rider store to buy her birthday presents and Christmas presents. And I want you to know we buried her from Lakeview United in June. She passed away in June, and we buried her in her Rider gear.
thank you so much for that, and our condolences, obviously. But that's what Rider Nation is all about. Thank you.
I have a few concerns, but my first one is because I have no email, I wasn't notified of this meeting. I found out on my own by phoning. Last year I received a letter. This year I received nothing. Another major concern I have is I support the foundation. Last year I come to the stadium with cash because I'm limited to what I do on my card, okay? I come here and I left here with no tickets and no receipt, spending $675 with no receipt. I find that a little bit terrible management, if you ask me. We need to correct these things. And this email stuff, I can't volunteer. I have no email. I'm an avid supporter, an avid fan of the Riders. I probably have 10 jerseys in my closet and with other paraphernalia, and I'm not qualified to volunteer. Something wrong with that.
Maybe I'll touch on your first comment first about not getting notice of the AGM. We'll connect with you because we did send out letters to those folks who we don't have an email address. So let's make sure we have your proper mailing address, and we'll get that updated in our database if it isn't there. In terms of the volunteering piece, again, that's something I can take away, talk to our volunteer team, get your information. I know potentially even working with our foundation if there's an opportunity there as well, and we can connect further in terms of getting that and seeing if there's an opportunity for that as well. So again, thank you for your support, for your many years of support, and we'll definitely make sure you get notice for the next AGM and look to see you there. Oh, sorry, yeah, definitely on the lottery. I know there's some foundation folks in the room, and we'll connect with that as well, and make sure, whatever we need to correct on that front is definitely addressed as well. So, again, before you leave, connect. We got a couple things. One is make sure we got your address. Two is on the lottery, and we can follow up on the volunteer piece. So, for sure, thank you.
This question's more maybe directed at the league than the franchise of the Riders, but you might have some insight. It's regarding scheduling, and of course I've looked at the entire schedule and noted that we're very favorably placed with buys right before each long weekend, the Labor Day weekend, and then right before playoffs. So that's kudos to whoever did that. What my question is, though, with an 18-game season, and of course you're not playing yourself, so there are 8 adversaries to play, giving 16 games. You would think that you would play 1 at home, 1 away against every team, and then have 2 spares against your own division. And I also noted that we don't even host Montreal this year. So I'm curious why there isn't at least 1 back and forth, home away with each team.
Excuse me, it's obvious we were missing our CEO tonight. I'll try to answer that. I know that during the COVID pandemic and when we had a partial season, there was a real effort to minimize costs best we could. And I think some of that may have carried over in terms of the schedule not including home and away with every team. I'm not sure that's necessarily the way it will be going forward. But the best thing that would happen for our league would be expansion so that we have 10 teams, we have a balanced schedule, it shortens the season, there would be less buys, and a lot of that is eliminated. And there's strong progress towards that. There's certainly very encouraging signs, so that would be partial solution, I think. So we'll take one more question, please, if anyone's got one. Way back there.
I was wondering if you're planning to rebuild the Plaza of Honor cairn.
Yeah, the Plaza of Honor cairn, it is a project that's on our kind of strategy review in terms of when we're looking at that. It is something we haven't lost sight of. The good news is we do have all the cairns, we have all the marble pieces in storage, and so we're just looking at when that makes sense and how we might be able to do that and how it could fit within the stadium footprint. So it is, I'll say it's still on the horizon, don't have a specific date, but we haven't forgotten about it.
Thank you, Kent. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to conclusion and appreciate all the shareholders that attended tonight, and onwards and upwards to a great 2023 season. Thank you.